Hi, today is May 22nd, 2024, and here are my poems for the day. The first one is poem number 791 for the year, Piece of Kiwi. It's inspired by a Reuters photograph. To capture the turbulence that killed a 73-year-old man on Flight SQ231 the night before last, Reuters published a photograph of some of the spilled luggage. My attention was drawn to a piece of kiwi. It seemed lonely, lost, disoriented, like, what the fuck happened? What happened was a man died, and more people were hospitalized, and some were treated for injuries. As terrible and sad as this is, it shouldn't put one off of flying. As Christopher Reeves said to Margot, statistically speaking, of course, it's still the safest way to travel. The piece of kiwi, of course, is too young to remember Richard Donner's Superman and probably wouldn't enjoy it anyway. Poem number 792, Crash. I'm reminded of Ammons again and his book Tape for the Turn of the Year, and how in the December 9th entry he reacts to a plane crash the night before by typing the numeral 1 80 times to represent the 80 people who had been killed in the crash. I looked up the crash to confirm and learned under the legacy section of the crash's Wikipedia entry that the crash called attention to previously unknown risks to aircraft from lightning strikes. It is odd that in 1963 there were previously unknown risks from lightning strikes. It is not odd that in Wikipedia's legacy section for Pan Am Flight 214 there is no mention of Ammons' book. Poem number 793, The Dead Man. I'm reminded of the dead man again. It was an old King Missile Dogfly religion thing that we used to perform in the mid-'80s. The man died the other day. He had a lot of friends, and they are all sad, is how it began. And it ended somewhat abstrusely with, Don't let the dead man's dreams die. Abstruse because I never say what those dreams were. I was writing about death as an abstraction because I hadn't really experienced it directly. Then my father's father died, and the idea of a dead man became less abstract. Then my father died in 1986, and the idea of a dead man became more real than I could have imagined and made it impossible to perform the dead man. I didn't have to explain this to the band, and none of them asked, hey, how come we don't do the dead man anymore? I was talking about the dead man with Dog Bowl earlier this week, but I still don't want to perform it. Poem number 794, A Second Time. At the time that my father died in 1986, I didn't know that he wasn't my biological father. At the time that my biological father died in 2001, I didn't know that he was my biological father. I found out in 2015 or maybe 2016 that Francis Favarini, my godfather, was my biological father. It was like finding out that I had lost my father a second time. It hurt then. It hurt a lot. It doesn't hurt now. And last poem of the day, poem number 795, It's Funny. It's funny, I was in a silly mood this morning, and I thought the poems were going to be funny or silly, but they weren't funny or silly. It's funny the way things work out sometimes. All right, that's it. Thank you. I appreciate you.